Hey, what is going on, everybody? Happy Monday. Meteorologist Jonathan Kegis with you for another edition of Tropics Watch Live. We hang out every Monday at 11 o'clock Eastern to break down all things tropics. Couple of things highlighted by the Hurricane Center we will get into. The big red thing on the right side of your screen, that is likely not going to be an issue. We're more concerned about that yellow area. It's a blob. Very disorganized. We're going to break all that down. First and foremost, we are coming at you live on clickorlando.com, the Click Orlando YouTube channel, the News 6 app, of course, and the Pinpoint Hurricane app if you don't have the Pinpoint Hurricane app. I know we're on the back half of hurricane season, but it is still a great time to download it. It is a free download. It's the best way to interactively track the tropics on your own and to get updates like this from real meteorologists. So we appreciate that. We appreciate you guys tuning in. All right, first and foremost, that's what we're looking at. Two areas in the Atlantic. The Pacific is super active. There are two storms out there. We'll take a look at that in a second because it is going to play a role, and it does have some implications for what could be coming even further on the Atlantic side. If you remember, we talked about we would likely see a sharp increase in Pacific activity at about this time, and that is coming to fruition, unfortunately. So first and foremost, again, that red area should not be an issue. We'll take a look at it a little bit later on in this live stream. And then that yellow blob, that is what we are going to be concerned with, in a sense anyway, for at least heavy rain thunderstorms towards the North Gulf Coast. We'll go over all the models in 1 second. So there we go. Out in the Pacific, we talked about this last week, that by this time we would likely have two Pacific storms. There we are, Lydia and Max. And it's going to be Max that is partially responsible for bringing heavy rain and moisture to Florida and parts of the North Gulf Coast as we get deeper into the week, really Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So what's going to happen, I'll show you some models in just 1 second, but notice the cloud cover here, kind of streaming from west to east. Jet stream screaming across Mexico, southern Texas, and then through the Gulf. That's why if you're watching from Florida, and specifically central Florida, we have the clouds hanging around today. It's because of that jet stream energy behind the front. Now, that's also one of the reasons why I don't think we're going to get tropical development out of this, but it's still something to watch because the Gulf is super, super warm. So there is Max. Max is going to do one of these, get caught up in the jet stream. This blob here is going to lift north, and we have kind of that cluster of thunderstorms getting embedded in that upper level flow that eventually slides to the eastern Gulf of Mexico. And 'tis the season for that to happen. Let me bring my comments over because there's a couple of comments on here, and I want to thank you guys. If you are watching on the YouTube channel, please post in the comments where you're watching from. Would love to know where you are tuning in from. And if you have any questions, of course, post that in the comments as well. Just trying to bring up my stuff here, and I want to do that one. All right, so we have Happy Monday. Thank you for tuning in. All right, so this is the comment that is interesting here. Mike says October 22nd is peak for Florida hurricanes. I think Labor Day weekend would argue with that, to be honest. It's right around that early September side, but he's not wrong because October tends to favor storms developing in the Western Gulf, the Western Caribbean, and then the jet stream kind of lifting those north and then pushing them east. So I wouldn't call October 22nd peak for Florida, but it is a pretty active period. And we talked about this on last week's live stream that we would likely see during that second to third week something trying to get going in the Western Caribbean. And if it does, you always have to watch that eastern Gulf of Mexico, really New Orleans and points east, because dips in the jet stream tend to lift that out of the Caribbean if it's on the western side. So I want to show you the model here. And this is what we're going to be watching over the next few days. So you see Max, I mean, it doesn't stand a chance over to the mountains of Mexico. So let's be clear about that. So Max is going to come over, but it's some crossover some moisture. And here's what's left of Lydia, too. So we kind of have this hodgepodge, this Frankenstein blob, if you will. We're getting close to Halloween. But so Mike says that no, and I wasn't meaning you're not wrong. October we have that flare up, and that's the Gulf side. So I wasn't poo pooing your comment. So I didn't want to be clear about that. I took it as a really really good point because we do see that increase in activity where we shut down those long track storms from Africa, and the east coast of Florida can still be impacted from those Gulf crossing storms. I mean, we saw Michael in October about that time. We saw Matthew, I believe, about that time. Of course, just go off the east. So October is not kind to Florida, unfortunately, historically, climatologically speaking. So it's something that we're going to be watching here. So here's this Frankenstein-esque storm. That's what's left of Lydia over here. Max and the blob have kind of infused themselves in the jet stream already. And then there you go. By Wednesday night, so if you're watching from Central Florida, I think the first half of Wednesday is pretty good. It's really Wednesday night into Thursday. Right now, and for the last couple of days, modeling has been honing in on the heaviest rain, like Panhandle, Big Bend region, as this, again, blob that does have a 20% shot as designated by the Hurricane Center to take on tropical characteristics. I think right now, with that jet stream being right there, the more likely scenario is just a blob of heavy rain and thunderstorms. Now, with that jet energy there, we would have to watch out for a severe weather threat if things come in line, because with that extra jet energy, you get the turning of the winds with height. I think it's kind of what's the word I'm looking for? The coffee was hitting this morning, and now I just lost my train of thought. It's kind of a preview or a precursor to the winter that could be for the Deep South and for Florida specifically with that extra jet energy. We talked about this on this channel. I have a video there if you want to check it out about what I think the winter is going to be like in Florida, and I think it's going to be an active one. I think it's going to be a cool and cloudy one, but the chance for severe weather is also going to be greater than what it would be otherwise because of El Nino. El Nino means a supercharged subtropical jet stream, which increases wind shear. Thunderstorms like wind shear. They like to turn with height. They like to have their downdraft be separated from the updraft, whereas hurricanes, tropical systems, they like it peaceful in the upper levels. They get ripped apart. So there's a difference. But anyway, I think this could be a precursor of what we see down the line through the middle of winter, with these storms kind of rolling off of Texas, Mexico, and then rolling right on through the Gulf of Mexico. So there you go, Thursday. We're basically done with it. I want to show you the rainfall amounts. And again, some of these could be significant through Friday. So there's a couple of different waves here. That first one, Wednesday through Thursday, is that kind of blob that we're watching in the Gulf. And then we get more moisture kind of pushing through on the day on Friday. So you see where at least the model forecast, and this is the European model, that is kind of honing in Panhandle, Big Bend for a widespread 2 to 4 inches of rain. But certainly whoever gets that, see that dark kind of orange strip right around Tallahassee and especially northwest, whoever gets into that strip could end up seeing 4 plus, maybe 5, 6 inches of rain. So where I personally don't think it's going to be able to consolidate and become tropical, this will still be impactful, and that's why we're going to watch it closely. So that is all about the blob, as I'm calling it. It may not get a name, but it still may bring some heavy rain, and likely will, regardless if it has a name or not. But we are going to watch, so I want to be clear about that. I'm not writing it off for tropical development. The Gulf is super, super warm. If it can fight off some of that wind shear, it might have a shot, but it's going to be a hodgepodge of likely a big mess. We're going to take a trip east. That cluster of thunderstorms you see right here. Let me move my circle that was poorly drawn. Right there, here is Africa. There's the coast of Africa. The lines kind of blend in with the storm, but that's Africa. Cabo Verde season is supposed to wind down, but it's the season that doesn't want to end. It's that likely tropical depression over the next couple of days. It is going to develop. Now, it should stay out at sea. That's what it has looked like. But look at some of the latest models, kind of ticking it to the west a little bit. Now, the GFS, it's been terrible. If you've been following us on Tropics Watch, or if you've been following the models themselves, the GFS this year has been terrible. It is normally much, much, much better than what it has done this year. But nonetheless, we do have it kind of hooking that way. Okay? It does keep it weak if it does do that. So also want to be clear about that. Then you also have the reliable consensus model, this orange line here, the TV Con. It's also doing that. But then you have the large divergence here. If you guys were following Philippe, it was a forecaster's nightmare. It was terrible. It wanted to do this and then that and then that and then up here. It was crazy. It's one of the most unforecastable storms that I have seen in recent memory with the uncertainty. And that was because Rena was involved. There was a weak steering flow involved. There was just like a kind of a perfect storm of awfulness to allow that uncertainty to be sky high with Philippe. So hopefully we're getting rid of that. But nonetheless, we're going to watch that closely. We're going to watch the trends with this as we move forward. Now, I'll show you the European side. We're going to take a super, super long, super wide view here of both the Eastern Pacific Basin and the Atlantic Basin to kind of show you again what is going on with that blob in the Atlantic. So we'll point a few things out. This is Invest 92L. That's what I just showed you near the Cabo Verde Islands. And again, for those that don't know what Invest is, and it's weirdly kind of a weird thing, but Invest means investigation. Then the Hurricane Center uses 90 through 99 to designate it. So when we get to 99, it'll go back to 90, and it just does that. It rotates through the hurricane season. And then the L is the Atlantic tag. You get E for Eastern Pacific, W for Western Pacific, and so on and so forth for the other basins. So that is the kind of the identification number there of a tropical wave or other disturbance that is being investigated. That's when the Hurricane Center runs the hurricane models on it. So that's what that is. So that's 92L hanging out there. We have, if I can get my, okay, there we go. There's my spin. There is the drawn out thing. So this is the euro. If you've been following WKMG, clickorlando.com for the hurricane season, I always like to show the low-level spin. It kind of shows it in a little more detail than just showing you the sea level pressure and the rain associated with it. But we're kind of looking for something like this, when that darker red is like a ball or a circle. Here's our Gulf disturbance, our Gulf blob, if you will, that's on October 11th, so a couple days away. Note that we have the wind coming in like this and then kinking back to the west. So this is an open wave, and it is elongated. It's strung out like a string bean. When it's like that, it is very unorganized, and it's very, very hard for something to consolidate when it's at that stage. So that's one of the reasons why I don't think we are going to have a named storm, per se, coming toward Florida as we get towards the middle part of this week, and then you see it still stretched out. Also, if you are watching from the east, I'm going to kind of give a bonus non-tropical thing. See this little guy right here? Actually, it's this big guy. That's October 13th. There is going to be, I think anyway, the most significant storm of the season developing by the middle part of this week, rolling across the lower 48. So if you liked the cooler weather on the eastern two-thirds of the country, it's going to get even colder, and I think even towards the panhandle of Nebraska, Wyoming, certainly in the mountains, we could have some snow. So that's this guy here, and that cold front's going to mean business even down to Florida. So some big-time chilly weather coming to the east, and then again, even for Florida. Kind of wraps up even further off the east coast of the United States, so potentially some inclement weather for New England as we get into beyond next weekend. And then there's October 19th. That's 10 days from now. There's not much going on tropically, so some good news there. I will say, though, that we are going to want to watch this area. The GFS is trying to highlight some shenanigans there, and it would line up with what I showed you last week. And I want to show you this again. It's basically what we're looking at here. It's the upper level divergence, and where you're seeing the green, where you see that green color pop up, that's where the model anyway is showing anomalous upward motion. For thunderstorms to develop, you need to have that upward motion. So I showed you this last week, and I believe the week before, highlighting that the Pacific would likely see an uptick in tropical activity because of something known as the Madden-Julian oscillation. When it's in phase, it increases the upward motion or the lift needed to get thunderstorms going. And then given the other atmospheric ingredients that typically are favorable when that entity is passing through the proper basin, we get an influx and we get tropical development. Of course, we have Lydia and Max out there right now, so that was dead on. I want to show you, though, going into next week, there is where we currently stand through the middle of October. We get some extra green pushing into the Western Gulf and into the Western Caribbean, and then it kind of consolidates more over Central America. So this is through October 22nd, so it's really going to be that third week of October that we are going to watch closely for the potential for a Central American gyre storm. Again, we get that semi-permanent area of low pressure to develop there that could be aided by the Madden-Julian oscillation, and we might get storms to kick up right here that could consolidate and then lift north. So that's the third week, and then we start to get things back to more normal forcing. And then we do have, so this is further out, so this is now to the first week of November. That would not be fun. We kind of get that extra pulse again that first or second week of November. So we may not be done with an active Western Caribbean season until beyond the middle of November. So that's just kind of going way, way out there. So that's something that we're going to watch again as we go forward through the next few weeks and again for the next couple of months of hurricane season. I want to kind of show you now where we stand on the names this hurricane season. This was expected to be a active season. The warm water was expected by experts that forecast the season to kind of offset some of the El Nino impacts. We really haven't seen that many El Nino impacts with the strong wind shear through the Atlantic. Again, when you get the warmer Atlantic waters, especially in the region where we have them, it can kind of offset the wind shear. But here's where we stand. We only have 4 names left. We're likely going to at least get a depression out near Africa. We might cross off Sean quick. I don't think that Gulf thing happens, but then if the GFS wants another storm in the subtropics later next week as well. So we could cross off a couple of more names with an active second half of October potentially and November to go. It's only happened twice, 2005 and 2020, where we've exhausted the entire names of the hurricane season. It's possible that we do it again. If that happens, this would be the first time that we would see the supplemental list of names. If you remember back in 2021, the Greek alphabet was completely retired because now with better satellite technology, we're identifying more storms and we're using more names now because we can see them that otherwise would not have. Of course, with the warmer oceans as well, we're able to get storms going a little bit earlier in the season than before as well. So and same conversely on the latter part of hurricane season as well, we're able to take it a little bit deeper because the waters are warmer. So that's something to just keep in mind, that the Hurricane Center, the World Meteorological Organization, just retired all the Greek names because it would get confusing if we exhaust the names a little more common now. So that's just something to keep in mind. Alrighty, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you want more information on the blob that we were talking about or on what I believe is going to happen for the second part of October, click that link. I have it pinned to the comment section. So that is right there. If you found this live stream helpful in the conversation that we like to have every Monday at 11 o'clock, and as necessary, mind you. If there's stuff that pops up, again, we're going to hop on here. We're going to go live. You're going to know about it. So hit that subscribe button for me. Hit that alert bell. You're going to know every time that we go live. And all that stuff. Again, we've been coming at you live on clickorlando.com, the Pinpoint Hurricane app, and, of course, the Click Orlando YouTube channel. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, we're on the back half. We're post-peak, but it doesn't mean that it is over. So always be vigilant still, especially with a record-warm Caribbean and a super warm Gulf of Mexico at this time. Any questions or comments, post them in the comment section. For watching on YouTube, and I will try to peruse them through the day and get back to you if I miss them in the live stream. I want to thank you guys a ton for tuning in. I'll catch you next time, and thank you guys for being with us on Tropics Watch Live.